right, what's going to make me feel good about myself? What is it exactly that I want to do? What are the behaviors that I would have to change in order to get there? And if that feels too much, then it probably is too much, and strip it back and just take small baby steps every day. And, taking things back and taking things slower doesn't give you instant gratification. But if you stick with it and you're consistent, it will suddenly become your way of life. And that's when you'll get the gratification from it.
Welcome back to Zevo Talks. I'm your host, Michelle. Today we are joined by Kelley Walsh Connor, a business owner, personal trainer, life coach, accountability and performance coach. Kelley has been a personal trainer for over 15 years and is a strong advocate for promoting a healthy lifestyle and extremely passionate about mental health. Thank you very much for joining us today, Kelley.
You're very welcome. Great to see you.
Can we just start off by telling us a bit about yourself?
So you did a lovely introduction there. So thank you for that, Michelle. My name is Kelley, and I've been a personal trainer for the past 15 years. I'm a mother of two children. So Jackson, who's 4, and Cole, who's just 1.5, a lockdown baby. And I have basically been passionate about health and fitness for my entire life. So it started actually at a really young age. My dad was a professional boxer and he was a marathon runner. And so for me, watching him when I was growing up, I was always so fascinated that the fact that he could skip. So he used to, like, when he stopped boxing, he would go for runs on a Sunday morning, and I used to run downstairs because I could hear the skipping rope and watch him skip, and I just thought that this was the most amazing thing. So I think my love of exercise kind of came from him. As I got a little bit older, I started to go out when he'd go on a run, and I would cycle when I was old enough to do that. That's kind of where my love of exercise came from. And, I was always really proud that my dad could run marathons and that he was a boxer and all of that type of stuff. So later on then into my teenage years, I never really was into sport or anything like that because I'm not a very competitive person, and I was actually really shy when I was a kid, so I never joined any teams or anything. But later on into my teenage years was obviously in the 80s, and my dad was mad into going to aerobics classes. So me and him used to go to aerobics classes together. Absolutely hilarious, because it was like when Mr. Motivator was out, and I was like, my dad would be only short and wearing all this Illuminous stuff, and I'd be like, oh my god, I'm so embarrassed, we can't go. So we used to do that together, and it was like, I guess back in those days, it was such an odd thing for a father and daughter to do, but I absolutely loved it. So yeah, my definite love for exercise came from him, and it was only probably later on in my life that I realized how exercise actually affected me and my mental health. So unfortunately, my dad passed away 15 years ago, and he had motor neurons disease, and it was probably into my 20s, I kind of stopped my love of exercise when I found the pubs and nightclubs and things like that, and I kind of tapered off a little bit. And after his passing, I actually got really back into exercise, and I found it like an amazing way to deal with my grief. And so I was actually living in Australia at the time, and obviously exercise over there is huge. I think it's probably because most of the time people are in bikinis, but anyway, with the nice weather. But exercise became another big part of my life, and it was just really how I managed my grief. So at that time, I was actually working in IT, and I was the worst IT person in the world. Because I was one of those people that you rang and was just like, have you tried to reboot it? But it wasn't my passion, like, at all. And it was just something that everybody was doing when they left school, so I decided to do it as well. So I remember after my dad died and I got so into exercise again, I just kind of thought to myself, do you know what? I feel like I want other people to use exercise as a way to deal with not just grief, but any type of like anxiety or whatever, because it really made me feel so much better about myself. And it was that hour of the day that I didn't have to think about how sad I was, and then obviously the effect of the exercise after you've done it, the endorphins that you get or whatever. So it really helped me, and I wanted to be able to help other people. So I decided to leave my IT job and pursue a career in fitness industry, which was like a huge deal at the time, because I had just bought my first home and in the boom, so you can imagine what that cost. And I'd gone from this like really high paid job to like a really low paying job. So, but I kind of just had this passion and this fire in my belly that I wanted to be able to help people. And yeah, so I started out in the fitness industry, 15 years ago. So I worked in a really small gym at the time, and it was like a gym that did lots of like aerobics and step aerobics and all the real old school stuff, and I just loved it. I later on then became a personal trainer. So I was a fitness instructor first, and then I became a personal trainer. And for about 2 full years, I actually trained people for free because I wanted to build up my credibility as a personal trainer. And I wanted to be able to prove, I guess, my worth. I probably didn't have to do it for that long. I think it's down the road to, but I have this free personal training. But for me, it was always about helping people. Even though I obviously needed to earn money as well, it was never about that. For me, it was getting results and helping people. And my brother actually was my first client, and he had gone through a really difficult time, and he'd gained a lot of weight. So he kind of came to me and said, I want to be able to run. And so he was my first client, and I used to meet him 3 times a week. And it was great in the beginning, when somebody sets out on a journey like that, they're very highly motivated in the beginning, and then they realize, oh God, this is hard. And we used to have murder. I used to be knocking on his door, come on, go to our training session or whatever. But it was great for me, and it built up like a really good, strong portfolio of different clients and different experiences, because obviously people train for different reasons. So I really enjoyed it. So then I started my personal training business after that, and thankfully it just went from strength to strength. And a couple of years ago, about 7 years ago now, I opened up my own gym, and that was a huge achievement, obviously. But owning your own business then obviously comes with its own issues. So not issues, I guess that's probably the wrong word, but it comes with a lot of responsibility and a lot of stress. So at the time, I was probably somebody who kept themselves incredibly busy so as to not deal with any type of thoughts or anxiety. So I just kept going and going and going. And obviously after the death of my dad and having to come home from Australia and stuff like that did obviously affect me. But I was so busy in changing career, I just wasn't really focused on how I was really feeling. So when I opened the business then, I had all of this other huge responsibility, and I found that my mental health was being really affected by it. And I went through a period of time in my life that I suffered from panic attacks, and I was diagnosed with depression, and I went through a really, really tough time. Again, I was using exercise as a way to kind of manage my anxiety and depression, but unfortunately, at one stage, it got so bad that I couldn't even go to work, and I had to take a bit of time off work. And exercise was probably the furthest thing from my mind at that time. Now I did go and get the help that I needed, and I had an amazing therapist, and he helped me through that tough time. But again, exercise, when I got a little bit better, again became this huge part of my life that helped me manage my anxiety and deal with my depression. And I now shout it from the rooftops, because I think especially these days people are suffering so bad with their mental health with all of these lockdowns and everything else. And exercise can really, really help with that. And I think social media can be blamed for a lot of things. When people think of exercise or think of getting fit, or they look on social media and think, oh my God, I have to do a triathlon to be fit, or I have to do a weightlifting competition or whatever. And actually you don't. Exercise for everybody is so different. Being fit for everybody is so different. And just like a tiny little bit of movement every morning, whether it be a stretch or whatever, can actually really benefit you physically and mentally. So so I'm a huge obviously advocate for exercise for mental health now, more so than ever. And I'm always very open and honest with my own battles with it, because I think it's very easy to look at somebody and think, oh, they have it all together, or and especially with social media. So that's why I never shy away from explaining to people my own battle with it. Now, last year during the first lockdown, I had decided that I was going to come off I was put on antidepressants at that time when I had the breakdown, and I stayed on them for 6 years. So last year during that first lockdown, I decided that I was going to come off them. And I always laugh about this, because my husband was like, Are you sure? Now the
Now's
whole
the best.
world, yeah, the whole world is going on antidepressants. You're deciding to come off them. But actually, for me, I had two things in my life that caused me a lot of worry and anxiety. And one was owning a business. So that was closed. So I was like, okay, well, that's closed. There's nothing I can do about that. And then the other was my mom, because she has really bad health and I was so worried about her. But she was cocooning, and I just thought, okay, well, these are the things that I'm telling myself cause me all of this anxiety. They are out of my control now. So now I can focus on myself a little bit more and try and sort this out. So obviously with my doctor's help, I weaned off the antidepressants. But again, I came back to exercise, and that kind of helped me so much during those days. That was really scary, for me. And yeah, I'm proud to say now we're a year on and I'm completely off my antidepressants and I've never felt better.
That's amazing.
Yes, thank you. Not just exercise. A lot more went into it than just that, but it was definitely a huge factor that helped me along the way. So yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. Of all times to decide to do it as well.
I know. And I actually took back up running after 10 years because, again, being influenced by my dad, being a marathon runner, when he passed away of motor neuron disease, I decided to run the marathon in 2009. And it traumatized me. So I didn't run for 10 years. I was like, I'm not a runner. I'm not really cut out for that. But when I was coming off the antidepressants and obviously been in the lockdown and I just had another baby and I just wanted to be outside, I decided to take up running again. And I had a little goal of being able to run 5k. Now I still only run 5k, and even if I'm parked further away, I stop at 5k. Don't love running that much to be running any more than that. But it's actually my time to be in nature. I listen to a podcast, and I really enjoy it. But yeah, and it's more a mental health tool than anything else. Yeah, so I'm not going to be running any marathons anytime soon.
That's amazing. I love that you still stop at 5k.
Oh yeah, no matter where I am, I stop dead. Like that's that done. I start walking.
When you were a child growing up, did you find that then that's when you first realised kind of exercise to be such a good escape for your mental health, or was it when you got that bit older?
You know what? When I think back, I was a child that suffered with. I was extremely shy. I suffered with anxiety from a very, very young age, and I guess I probably didn't realize the effect that the exercise was having on me until later on, until I got into my adulthood. But yeah, I grew up a very anxious child, and that carried on over into my adulthood. And obviously back then, which is fair, it's like 70 or something, but 20 odd years ago,
it wasn't spoken about.
And people would have described me, like people in my family were like, oh, she's just a worrier, she's just this, but it was actually a disorder that I had that wasn't really dealt with, and unfortunately it ended up then in having a breakdown. But yeah, it probably wasn't until later on into my adulthood that I realized, oh God, when I exercise it makes me feel good, and that's why I want everyone to feel good, so that's why I promote it so much.
It's brilliant the way you have that kind of correlation between mental health and physical exercise, as opposed to an awful lot of the time when you go on the likes of social media, it is very much people are just they view exercise and food as a punishment almost.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's something that I'm trying to change, for me, when I deal with clients, especially when it comes to nutrition, I always say to people, you're either eating to comfort yourself or you're eating to punish yourself, and we forget that we actually eat to just give us energy. That's why you eat, so it gives you energy, it helps your mood, it helps you sleep. But we don't ever look at food in that way, so for me, when I look at my food, and I really felt this last year coming off the antidepressants, was that if I didn't eat properly and if I didn't eat proper nutritious meals, it made me feel bad because I wouldn't have the energy to do all the things that I needed to do in a day. I mean, everybody is so busy, we're all busy, I've had 2 small kids, I like to exercise, I was trying to create an online business, so I needed energy in order to be able to do all of those things. So if I don't feed myself properly, I get anxious because I'm tired, so I guess, again, I think people, I shouldn't blame social media so much because I run my business from there, but again, I think there's such a negative, I guess, view on food when you look on social media, and really definitely, when you think about it, we just eat for energy, basically. And
Yeah.
also enjoyment, but physically we're eating to give ourselves energy to do things,
Yeah.
So I love doing lots of research in and around like brain health, because unfortunately, not only did my dad pass away from motor neurons disease, he was actually diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 54.
Good.
So I know. So people associate Alzheimer's as a disease of age, but it's actually just a disease of the brain. And obviously being a boxer probably didn't help all that situation. But I got hugely interested in brain health. And I think, again, we never look at food as fueling our brain. And our brain actually works really well off glucose, and glucose we get from carbohydrates. And what's the one thing that people go, I'm going on a healthy diet, I'm going to cut out all these carbs. And I'm like, your brain likes carbs, we should eat carbs, So again, for me, making sure that I'm fueling my brain to do all of these things that I wanted to do is hugely important. I remember going to a talk by Jerry Hussey a few years ago. He's a sports psychologist, and he spoke about brain health, and he said, if you were to take your brain out of your skull and hold it in your hands, you treat it like a new baby, you'd nourish it, and you'd talk nicely to it, and you'd hydrate it, and you'd exercise it, and you do all of these amazing things to watch it grow. But yet we don't do those things.
No,
we
we're
dehydrate it. Yeah. We don't give it the right food, we don't exercise, and then expect it to work at this really high level. And we expect it to be then motivating and encouraging, and you expect to not have brain fog and to be able to make all these decisions, but yet we're not fueling it in the right way to do that. Well, very often we're not fueling it in the right way to do that.
This must go back to, I know you've spoken previously about your gym was never kind of stereotypical sort of gym where you went in and it was a line of treadmills and a line of bikes. It was always very much more to feel part of something bigger, like a bit of a community sort of thing.
Yes.
This must go back to that an awful lot, does it?
Oh yeah, 100%. Again, for me, as I said, I was a really shy child growing up. Everyone laughs when I say that. What have you now? But so for me, I understand completely how somebody feels when they first come to a gym.
Yeah.
Like I feel vulnerable going to a gym, and I'm a personal trainer, because it seems like this big, bad, scary place. So for me, when we opened the gym, I wanted people to come and feel absolutely safe, that they were not going in there, because you're vulnerable when you first go into somewhere like that, and I used to actually meet people in the car park, because I'd be like, just get to the car park. If we can get you to the car park, I'll get you through the doors. And then you'll see that it's not this big, scary place. And we would really pride ourselves in, knowing everybody that walks through the doors and making everybody feel comfortable, and that people are a little bit nervous, and we try to kind of settle all of that. And then after a couple of weeks you get lots of slagging and all of that kind of going on. But in the beginning we are very conscious that people are feeling a bit vulnerable. So yeah,
it's amazing that you say that as a personal trainer.
Yeah, like I never go to gyms. Terrible. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to go in there. But yeah, like I would feel that way. So, I can, and I like that, like I know how to exercise. So when somebody has never exercised before and they walk in somewhere, it can be a really scary place. So yeah, it was a big priority of mine to not let people feel like that,
Yeah. You're clearly an advocate for physical health and mental health. How would you encourage someone to get active if they aren't interested?
Yeah, so what it's hard. I think it's hard for somebody to make somebody do something that they don't want to do.
Yeah,
so
any walk of life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when I meet people, I try to explain what exactly happens in our bodies when we exercise, or what exactly happens in our bodies when we eat a little bit better, and kind of back it up by all the science and the research, because I think that's kind of really interesting concept, because I think an awful lot of the time people will associate exercise and nutrition with weight loss, and it's such a negative way to view exercise and good nutrition, because it doesn't always have to be, you're not always wanting to exercise because you want to lose weight. I mean, exercise can just make you feel good. So a thing that I kind of would say to people, think about the things that you enjoy in your life. If you were a little bit fitter and a little bit stronger, would you enjoy them a little bit more? So would that be playing with your kids? If you were a little bit fitter, would that be a little bit easier, first of all? But would you enjoy it a little bit more? Is it doing your garden? I had a lady come to me that was in her 60s and never exercised before, and she said, I just want to be able to clean my windows. So that's the kind of
Yeah.
idea that I try to put into people's heads. Think about things that you love to do, and think about if you were a little bit fitter, would you enjoy them that little bit more? And actually, you probably would, And even if it's shopping, carry more shopping bags, so you can walk around town a little bit more, whatever it may be. But life can be that little bit easier when you're a little bit fitter. So it's trying to change the mindset of viewing exercise as just a tool for weight management and viewing it as a way to actually live life a little bit easier. So that's kind of what I would say to people when they're not motivated, but also to maybe then encourage a friend or a family member to get involved. Like buddy systems work really well, because you might let yourself down, but you won't let someone else down.
Yeah.
So that can be really good. And then maybe to find a personal trainer and be, have somebody that's there that you're going to be accountable to, that you have to kind of meet every week. And eventually then when you start to feel the physical benefits of exercise, it will motivate you to do it more, when you start to actually feel that little bit better, when you have a bit of a pep in your step, I feel, then you'll be more motivated to do it.
Yeah, I suppose like anything as well, once you find that kind of, is it a personal trainer or a friend or anything, like finding a good hairdresser, once you click with the person.
Yeah, stick with the person and then find something that you enjoy. Now I'm always really cautious of saying that, because you're not always going to enjoy exercise, because in the beginning it's hard and you're out of breath, and it's probably not, you've never experienced that before, and you're sore. But eventually, if you can focus on how you feel afterwards, like no one ever regrets an exercise session. Like no one ever goes, oh, I'm raging, I did that, I feel worse. You're always going to feel better. So if you can just remember that bit of it, but definitely not do something that you absolutely hate to do. Like me in the running, we can only go to the 5K. That is it, not more, and not anymore.
Do you think after having your own struggles and after struggling for so long, now being around people, well, not at the moment, but previously being around people every day where they might come to try get those endorphins up and try make themselves feel better, do you think you'd be able to spot the struggles in other people now?
Oh, like 100%. And like I don't know whether it is because I've gone through it myself, but I literally feel it off people straight away. Like I can feel it. And even if that's through Zoom, I can feel it. It's mad, because I know most people will come to me because they think they want to fix the outside bit. And usually then after we have a consultation, I'm always a bit like, So my my husband always likes me, and he's like, you're the tear extractor. And I'm like, she's in there, she's had people crying again. So when somebody comes into me, first of all, they'll always talk about, well, I want to lose weight and I want to do this and I want to do that. And I'm going, gee, and I ask certain questions, and I'm like, well, how do you feel about yourself? What's your relationship with yourself like? And they always get caught off guard. They're like, oh, what do you mean, like, and that's kind of how, and I'm like, okay, well, why don't we look at this a little bit differently? Why don't we get you feeling a little bit better, feeling a bit stronger? Why don't we think about how you're treating yourself, what you're saying to yourself, and take it from there? And I can definitely, like my therapist that I went to 6 years ago, I loved him so much that I actually referred to like almost 50 clients to him. So
you do love them.
So I know. So I actually went on to study psychology myself afterwards, because I did a full year. I toyed around with the idea of actually changing career, because I felt like so many people needed more than just the exercise. You know what I mean? That they needed to really, do work on themselves. So I did a year, and then I kind of decided, no, I missed the exercise stuff too much, so I didn't pursue it. But it made me become a better personal trainer, I think, because I was able to then not just advise people on my own experiences. I was able to then, I guess I could listen a little bit better.
Yeah.
I could ask different questions. I could empathize more. I during that year, I really learned how to not try to fix people, how to just listen to them and don't be always trying to advise, so it's actually, it's really, helped me become a better personal trainer. But as you said, I do tend to have this kind of radar, and I'm like, what's really going on there? Which is amazing, because then I can train people from a whole holistic point of view. And then hopefully not make too many people cry.
That's brilliant though, looking beyond the surface kind of thing, and not just
Yeah.
like a lot of gyms out there kind of just trying to see the bottom line, trying to see that bit deeper, kind of look at the person rather than just the
Yeah,
exterior.
100%. Yeah. So I love to take people, like sometimes I spend a whole hour talking to somebody.
Making
Do you know
them
what I mean?
cry.
Because that's, making them cry. But that's what they need, they need to figure out, well, what is it that I'm actually doing here? Do I really want that goal? Is that really, how do I actually feel? What am I doing to myself? So it's just figuring out all those things and then being able to set realistic goals in and around their lifestyle. And that's how I feel like I get better results from people, because it's more of an holistic standpoint.
Definitely, that's brilliant. Just kind of wondering, as you were chatting there, you talked a bit about the gym and about everything. How have you kind of managed through COVID?
It's been interesting. So it's funny because when the first lockdown happened, my little girl was only 12 weeks old, and I had gone back to work after 6 weeks, because owning your own business, these are the type of things you have to do, unfortunately. And I'm very grateful for the lockdowns, because now I realize that that's not what I want to be doing, because I've just had a baby. So it's funny when you have your own business, it's like you never stop, you never get time away, and you always feel, well, maybe it wasn't that, it was probably the pressure I put on myself to feel like I needed to be there all the time. And when I think back, I'm like, she was 6 weeks old, what was I thinking? But anyway, when she was 12 weeks old, we went into the first lockdown, and I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, if I feel like this, my anxiety was through the roof. I was like, imagine how everyone else must feel. Like, I feel like I'm a type of person that will talk about my anxiety, that I have gone to therapy, that I've no problem in ringing my therapist and making another appointment. But I imagine that a lot of people were like, this was the first time that they felt this level of anxiety. And so I decided that I was going to do some free classes online. And it kind of started out as a bit of a joke the first day, and then like hundreds of people started to tune in. So I did live classes every day for free for like over a year. And yeah, I know, how crazy.
It's like you don't like making money.
I know, like, what is wrong with me? But yeah, and like the messages that I was getting from people going, oh my God, this has brought so much structure to my day. Thank you so much. And so for me, that kind of drove me to keep going and keep going. Like, at the end of the day, I felt like providing a service for somebody that was also helping myself, because obviously I was doing the classes as well, and that was helping with my anxiety. But then just being a part of the community and knowing that I was giving back made me feel great about myself, so it was all of that. So I did that for like over a year. Now, unfortunately, obviously the business was closed for a very long time. But then I set up like an accountability program online. So I started to do all of this nutrition online. So my whole business and life has actually changed thanks to all these lockdowns, so I now actually don't go to the gym anymore. I now kind of base myself more online, and I just do personal training and things like that. So yeah, it's been it's been so interesting for me, because never in a million years did I ever think that this is how my career was going to go, and now it is. And it's especially made me realize that what I was doing before wasn't working for my family, and now I kind of prioritize my own time and my time with the kids a little bit more than what I was before, because I think that we all just get so stuck in that rush of busyness, and it's so hard to actually come out of it. But now that I'm out of it, I'm determined to not go back to that. So hopefully, please God.
Can you tell us a bit more about your accountability program? It's interesting to hear kind of people after COVID kind of taking something that could have been an absolute disaster for yourself and your business, and kind of making lemonade out of lemons thing.
Yeah, I guess what happened was, I'm obviously hugely interested in nutrition as well, and as I spoke to you about earlier on, trying to encourage people to eat properly for their health and their energy, and give them, put them in better form. Yourself, like, if you're hungry, you want to kill everybody around you. So I'm trying to encourage people to eat for their mood as well. And so during that very first lockdown, I kind of decided, okay, I need to control the controllables. So I wrote a list of things that make me feel happy and well. So apart from the usual children and my husband and all of that type of thing, it was, other stuff apart from that. So obviously exercise is one of them, getting out in nature was one of them, doing some breath work was another one, but eating properly was another one. And so I started to kind of keep track of what I was eating and how it was affecting my mood, my sleep, and my energy. Because as I said to you earlier on, everybody is really busy. So even though I was in a lockdown, I was still doing that class every day, and I still have two small children to look after. So I needed lots of energy. So I noticed on the days that I didn't eat properly or I didn't feel myself, my anxiety was a lot worse. So I started to track my mood, my sleep, my energy, my food, how it was affecting me. And I just developed this whole accountability program for myself. And so then I kind of was like, well, if I feel accountable to myself and I'm starting to feel amazing, maybe I could help other people feel this way. So I just put it out there to my clients going, how would you like to kind of get involved with this? And it actually just went from strength to strength. So a lot of people unfortunately view it as a weight loss program. Some people go in with the goal of weight loss, but after the 4 weeks, they end with a different goal, because I'm on there every day going, think about your health, stop thinking about your weight loss. You know, I want you to have a better relationship with food. I want you to not view food as the enemy. I want you to see that when you eat well, you feel good. And so by the end of the 4 weeks, most people are like, oh my God, I now just prioritize my health over weight loss. I now realize that by eating well, I'm a much nicer person. I have more energy and I sleep better and everything is better. And so, yeah, it's been going from strength to strength every month and I'm absolutely loving it. So, yeah.
That's amazing. I suppose at the end of the day, we're in this body for life. So you have to look after it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we forget all of that, you know, and again, it probably just goes back to having all these fad diets and, you know, weight loss programs and all of that. And it's just getting away from that. You know, I always say to people, if weight loss is the goal, I can definitely 1,000% help you with that. Let's switch the mindset to health and well-being first and then get to the weight loss. And you know, I say to my clients, imagine those pair of jeans that you wanting to get into, and imagine it taking you a little bit longer to get into them, but imagine staying in them forever, ever and ever, never having to worry about it again, and then you just stay there, you know, and that's it. Because you developed this amazing relationship with yourself and this amazing relationship with food. So
getting to the bottom of why you need to get there. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I suppose obviously you went through there, like your relationship, exercise, relationship with food, and everything like that. As someone that has struggled with mental health in the past, what else do you do to kind of maintain your mental health to a positive level and look after yourself on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so really interesting, Michelle, because even though I obviously went to therapy for a very long time, because as I said, I loved my therapist so much, she used to be like, Kelley, we're not friends, like stop booking in with me. So, you know, I loved how he made me understand why I was the way that I was, why I was anxious, why I acted in certain ways or why I didn't do things. And, you know, it was a lot to do with my self-limiting beliefs. And I was so interested in all of that. That's why I kept going back. What about this? What about that? And, you know, and I just think that people don't have to go to therapy because something traumatic has happened in their lives, although something traumatic has happened in everybody's life, you know, at the moment. But you can just go to have a better relationship with yourself. You can just go to be a better person. You can just go to understand your emotions. Like for me, that was huge, to understand, why am I sad? Why am I happy? Why am I angry? Why am I frustrated? Why, you know, and being able to understand that and then get better at it. So during that first lockdown, when I came off my antidepressants, I was so determined to not be depressed and not be sad that I almost felt like if I was sad at any stage, I was somehow failing. So I decided then that I needed a little bit more help, because I was like, okay, you know, it is a normal human emotion to feel sad. I shouldn't be afraid of it. You know, you should be able to feel sad and then get over it, you know. So I reached out to a really good friend of mine who does this like emotional release therapy. And so I started some sessions with her. So basically we would do some meditation, we would do some visualization. She would really question what I was actually feeling in that moment. You know, was I feeling angry? why I was feeling that way, and we would release the emotion, and I found it really beneficial. So I did a little bit of that, did a good bit of that actually. But I also then started to do some breath work, and I find breath work has been so beneficial to me because you can do it at any time of the day. You don't have to lie down or do anything. You just do it at your desk. And because I love science, so I loved all the scientific research into what taking deep breaths does for you. So basically sends a signal to your brain to tell your brain that everything's okay. So we have two central nervous systems. So your first one is your fight or flight. So this was our central nervous system for when we were back as cavemen, and if you were going to fight a beast or you were going to run away or what you were going to do. So we have this fight or flight response. But unfortunately, the way in which we live our lives these days, a lot of us are in that fight or flight. So we're in that level of stress all of the time, and we don't do anything with it. And what happens then is that upsets all of the other systems in our bodies. So the other systems in our bodies don't work as well. So digestion doesn't work, immune system doesn't work, our sex hormones don't work as well as they should. And it can cause lots and lots of different diseases and disorders if it's not treated. And also depression and anxiety disorders. So that's our fight or flight central nervous system. Our parasympathetic nervous system is the nervous system that when we are calm and we're relaxed, our bodies can do what it's supposed to do. This is the nervous system that we're supposed to be in most of the time, that we're not. So by actually taking deep breaths, it's been scientifically proven that your body can go from the fight or flight into the parasympathetic nervous system just by taking deep breaths. So I just find that so fascinating because you can do that at any time of the day. So for me, if I feel a little bit overwhelmed, I literally just take a few moments. It gives you clarity. It makes you not overreact. It just calms yourself down. So yeah, it's an amazing tool. I also try to do it before I know this sounds crazy, but before I eat, because if you're in that fight or flight central nervous system when you eat, you don't digest your food properly. So people have digestion issues, IBS, all of this type of stuff. So I don't do it all the time because with two small kids and a business and everything, I'm usually just running around and shoving food in here, there and everywhere. But at dinner time, I try to make it my business to be like, okay, and calm it all down and just eat your dinner and absorb all of these amazing nutrients that you need for your body and brain to work properly. So yeah, it's an amazing tool, and I definitely think it's something that people can use.
Yeah, because you previously spoke about basically with all the kind of self-care and everything out there, you could almost make a full-time job out of just looking after yourself.
I always joke with my clients saying, if you were to do all the self-care tasks that social media would believe that you should be doing, you'd never sleep. You shouldn't be able to go to sleep. You'd definitely be doing them all. So again, I think this goes back to writing down things that make you feel happy and well, and kind of sticking to those things. So again, for me, my number one self-care task is to eat properly. Because I know when I don't, I feel bad because I don't have energy to do what I want to do. So for me, it's food, but also, exercise and getting out in nature, but with the breathing. And more recently, I've started to do meditation. And so I wanted to meditate for years because I was like, Oprah meditates, it has to be good for you. I mean, come on, if Oprah's doing it, we all should be doing it. But I couldn't do it because I thought that you had to have no thoughts. And I'm like, oh my God, my brain never stops thinking. Like, I'm never going to be able to do this. And so I started to just YouTube, how do I do this properly? And actually what it is you're just not supposed to have an emotional response to the thought. So you just acknowledge that the thought is there, but then go back to your breath and, get on with the meditation. And for me, it's after the meditation is when I probably feel my best, because again, it brings you into that parasympathetic nervous system that we spoke about, calming everything down. So after I meditate, I feel better mentally and physically because I'm a little bit more calm. So this morning, for example, I had a really bad night's sleep last night because I was really worried about, so ridiculous. I changed an email system and I sent an email and didn't go, and I was really worried that clients of mine weren't getting this email for a class that I was doing this morning. And then unfortunately my mum was really unwell, so last night I didn't sleep properly, and I got up at 6 and I came downstairs and I meditated for like just 5 minutes, going, you have a really busy day today, I'm meditating for energy. And it just made me feel better, because I could have gotten up going, oh my God, I didn't sleep and I'm so busy today. And and instead I meditated to calm myself down. I was like, you've got this. And, and went to bed every day. So yeah.
I've tried to get into meditation a few times, and I remember one time, it was back when we were back in the office, and I was saying this in the office, and Davina, she's our wellbeing director, and I was just kind of like, when I try to meditate, a million thoughts come in, and I just can't, and she was kind of, she's like, yeah, that's normal. Anybody will have thoughts. It's just how you kind of deal with them. She's been doing yoga for years. She's a yoga instructor. She meditates daily. I'd still get thoughts. I was in my mind, I was kind of thinking, God, if you're sitting there, you're supposed to be like,
your mind should be blank.
Your legs crossed.
Yeah.
I was like, why can't I do it?
Yeah, I know, 100%. And I always talk to my clients about this as well. Go, even if you weren't to meditate, even if meditation is not your thing. Again, I love science, so I love the scientific research that's been done on meditation. And basically, it's because you're trying to go back into this parasympathetic nervous system state, so that you're at rest and you're calm, and the system in your body are doing what they're supposed to do. But very often I'd say to my clients, mindfulness is such a big buzzword these days. So, it's useless telling somebody that's absolutely stressed out of their mind to just be mindful. Like how annoying is that? So, but for me, I would practice mindfulness actually in the shower. So in the nighttime, I have a shower at nighttime before I get into bed, and I just remind myself that I'm about to get into bed, and it's time I'm not going to do everything that I was going to do that day or didn't get that done. I'm not going to do everything that I'm supposed to be doing tomorrow, that I'm supposed to be now trying to relax and get ready for bed and get into bed in a more relaxed state. So I practice mindfulness in the shower, but you could also meditate in the shower. So yeah, it's trying to just calm your mind down before you get into bed, and it actually works really, really well. But yeah, all my clients laugh at me when I say that. Mindful in the shower. It's probably the only time of the day, that I'm at peace and quiet.
Well, mindful, I suppose, in essence, is just about thinking about what you're doing and kind of taking it back
enough.
So, but if you're not, if you're in the shower and you have the couple of minutes, why not?
Well, yourself, you're in the shower and you're having all these arguments with people that you're never going to have arguments with. I should have said this, like that, and why are you driving yourself insane? Just being there going, life is
take
good.
the moment.
Yeah.
I suppose, Kelley, that kind of brings us to the end of today. I think we've kind of ran through everything that we wanted to run through plus more. And I have to say, it was absolutely lovely talking to you today. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Michelle. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So I hope now people get something from that, especially if people are feeling overwhelmed, with the lockdowns and everything else, and they don't know where to start. If they wanted to, start out on a healthy journey, write it down. I find like that people just think that they want something, but they don't really, you know what I mean? Like I have done this myself 1,000 times and going, this is my goal, but then I'm over here doing this other thing that has nothing to do with my goal, and then wonder why I'm not getting there, so write it down and be like, right, what's going to make me feel good about myself? What is exactly that I want to do? What are the behaviors that I would have to change in order to get there? And if that feels too much, then it probably is too much, and strip it back and just take small baby steps every day. And taking things back and taking things slower doesn't give you instant gratification, but if you stick with it and you're consistent, it will suddenly become your way of life, and that's when you'll get the gratification from it. So yeah,
that's amazing. Love a few takeaways at the end.
Yes,
it's always good for people to know what's something simple to start with, because sometimes everything's too much.
And everything is too much anyway all the time with life, isn't it? So it's just stripping it back and being clear in your intentions, I suppose,
Yeah, definitely. Kelley, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure to chat to you. Thank you to Kelley for joining us. Her story is inspiring, and how she came so far to get something so positive from a dark place. And thank you for listening to another episode of Zevo Talks.